EU Chief Ursula von der Leyen has been accused of trying to power grab across states in the European Union. Brexit campaigner David Banks explained the European Union has set up the European Defence and Technological Industrial Base, EDTIB, to set out what all EU countries must achieve. He claimed that the EU began a project of stealth almost 10 years ago. Speaking on the David Ellis report, EU Booba Trap, Mr. Banks said, the EU directive was brought in order to be the foundation of what the EU calls EDTIB. EDTIB started to be talked about more seriously about 4 or 5 years ago, and now it's a crucial pillar of the EU defense. It provides the EU with the basis on which the whole EU's defense and industrial market. This is a project of stealth and slow creeping growth as we normally see with other EU power grabs. It's a pervasive gradual flow of influence, so in 10 years time it will look a lot different to how it is now, but we've already got the beginnings with a decade down the line of this integration of EU defense industries. His comments come as chief EU negotiator Michel Barnier is due in London on Monday for talks with Britain to find out whether a deal on future relations can be struck to avoid widespread trade disruption at the end of the year. The United Kingdom left the European Union in January, but the two sides are trying to clinch a deal that would govern nearly $1 trillion in annual trade before a transition period of informal membership ends on the 31st of December. After a brief hiatus when London walked away from the negotiating table, both sides are now meeting daily to try to find common ground. At stake is the smooth flow of cross-border trade as well as the harder to quantify damage that a chaotic exit would do to security information sharing and research and development cooperation. Barnier and his EU team will be in London until Wednesday, after which talks will switch to Brussels and continue through the weekend, an EU spokesperson said. EU diplomats were not expected to be briefed on progress in the latest batch of talks until later in the week. Since talks restarted last week, British ministers have said real progress has been made and that there is a good chance of a deal. On Sunday, Ireland's Deputy Prime Minister, Leo Varadkar, said a deal to avoid tariffs and quotas was likely, after some progress on competition guarantees including state aid rules. The hardest issue remains fishing. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson has insisted on taking back control over its waters while the EU wants access. Although Britain insists it can prosper without a deal, British companies are facing a wall of bureaucracy that threatens chaos at the border if they want to sell into the world's biggest trading bloc when life after Brexit begins on the 1st of January. Leaving without a Brexit deal has cost implications which will impact UK consumers and their pockets. The head of Logistics UK, previously the Freight Transport Association, has warned. Chief Executive David Wells told BBC Radio 4's Today programme, "No doubt the government will argue that maybe the exporter will reduce their price to give you some sort of compensation. Maybe the supplier or the importer may suck up some of the tariff. But in reality somebody somewhere has to pay for this, and in a free trade agreement that with the EU that we have at the moment, there are no tariffs. So to go to WTO rules, somebody somewhere is going to pay the tariff, and ultimately I believe that will end up at the door of the consumer." He said he was concerned the smart freight system was not yet up and running, adding the government was preparing a handbook for HGV drivers and that document is not ready yet, and that really needs to be a document in many languages, and we're really concerned that that isn't ready yet.